Hey everyone, going to get started now. Yeah, I guess I just want to first start off. Who's heard of test-driven development? Yeah, pretty famous, right? It's one mechanism of writing good code. Well, I'm going to be showing something a bit different today. I'm going to be showing something called task-driven development, and this is a way of essentially writing code using AI-powered tools like Cursor and providing a similar structure that something like test-driven development does. Task-driven development, as we're going to go into, basically gives like a very rigid framework for you to start building code using AI and try and prevent it from going out of control. I think I heard someone at the front mentioning the barrier to entry is now going lower in creating unmaintainable code. Hopefully this makes it a bit easier to maintain by taking sort of a methodical approach. So I'm going to be sort of showing this end to end, and I do want to really give a quick shout out to this guy who's created this awesome repo containing these rules that you obviously give to AI. It's kind of like part of the prompt. I've created a fork which is specific to the hackathon. So if you want, you can scan this QR code. It will then go to this fork where you can see the rules. It's basically the same. I've tweaked it slightly to make it specific to Web3 and to some of our hackathon submissions. But without further ado, I'm going to show you exactly how to use it, how you can apply it, and sort of the context for this particular session. I'm going to be using the Hedera Agent Kit. So obviously Hedera, for those of you who don't know, layer 1 blockchain, EVM compatible, and it's also got quite a nice JavaScript SDK and Python SDK, so you can do a lot of cool blockchain stuff without actually even touching Solidity. I'm going to be using the Hedera Agent Kit. You can find this online. You can find Hedera Agent Kit on GitHub or an NPM. I've cloned the repo, and we're going to basically be extending our Hedera agent with a custom plugin. So I'm going to create a custom plugin. We've obviously got out-of-the-box plugins. I'm going to create a custom one which integrates to something called Meme Job Fun. Meme Job is basically Hedera's equivalent to Pump.fun. So the objective of today is to use this test-driven development to create a plugin for the Hedera Agent Kit, which allows a user to be able to interact with an LLM and actually create tokens on Pump.fun, essentially the equivalent. So I've started a bit because I don't want it to be too boring watching LLM thinking. But sort of what I can show is the first step. There's 3 steps. So the first step is creating your PRD. And obviously, after you've sort of cloned this repo, you've added these in somewhere into your directory where you can reference them with Cursor. Basically, all you need to do is you just need to tag the create PRD MDC file. This is a file which contains instructions how to. So you're a AI guide assistant in your job is to create a detailed PRD for a junior developer. Explains the process, take the prompt which I want to build, ask clarifying questions. It's got a few suggestions as to what those clarifying questions can be, and then it goes to actually implement that PRD. And really what this PRD is, this product requirements document, is it acts as the foundation. This is when you're building a new feature, this is what anchors the AI, so it doesn't suddenly go on a crazy tangent and starts doing something that you don't want to do. You keep it on the PRD, and then you go to the next step, which is generating the tasks. But just to sort of quickly look at what that flow is, again, I didn't want to do all of this live because it's a bit dull. We're going to go into the actual building live. But as you can see, I've basically said use create PRD. That's the system prompt. I want to create a meme job fun plugin for the Hedera AI Agent Kit so that a user can create a meme job token using the CLI chat tool. That's just something which comes inside of the repos for quick testing. And obviously I tag that. And this is really important, obviously referencing relevant files, context engineering, making sure that you're giving the AI as much context as it needs without necessarily overdoing it, but sort of giving it sufficient. And then also reference these files. So I've given an example of an existing plugin that we have. Obviously, it can use that and it can model the new plugin's architecture off of one of the existing ones. I've also given it a link because this is what you can do within Cursor and presumably with most AI-powered tools. You can just hyperlink it to documentation. So I've just sent over the getting started docs for this meme job SDK and also the create token docs. And with that, the AI is able to search it, and it's able to sort of take that website context into its own context window. And obviously, again, reduce that risk of hallucination. It's really important. Make sure that you're giving the AI as much information as possible. In this instance, I use Claude 4 Sonnet. I mean, I tend to use O3. I find that GPT-03 is very good when it comes to this planning phase, when it comes to really sort of thinking about what you need to do. But it's really totally up to you. I mean, I would generally recommend these reasoning models. So using the strong reasoning models like 4Opus. I mean, this one absolutely rinses through cache. I was using this a couple of weeks ago and I was spending like $2 a minute. But O3, this is a pretty good one. And yeah, I used 4 Sonnet. The outcome was still decent because obviously it comes back with these clarifying questions, which is, again, it's a mechanism to really improve that quality of the prompt. And really, when we get to the point of creating this PRD, it's not just this initial prompt with all of the links, it's the prompt plus extra questions. And we've really engineered this whole context to be very clear, very descriptive, little room for error. So it comes back with a few questions. What's the problem? What's the problem statement? Target users, core functionality. Here, for example, it's clarified, do you want to buy existing tokens or sell? We could include this into the scope. We could do it in a PRD afterwards. If we have time, we'll do that. But again, you sort of you answer these clarification questions, and it's pretty helpful here. I mean, it gives me the question, it gives me example answers, so I don't even really need to write. When it comes to replying, I'm just like 1A, 1B, 2.3, 2C, da 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 da. And then once it has all of that sort of once it has those answers, once it's got everything it needs, it then goes to create the PRD. So we can have a look at what that looks like. And again, just to remind everyone, PRD, product requirements document, this is the anchor. This is what grounds the LLM so that it doesn't start doing some crazy hallucinative stuff, which like you haven't asked for. Very, very common if you don't have that central grounding. So it's introduction to it, gives us the goals, user stories, and then the functional requirements. A good foundation to go on to the next step, which is the generation of tasks. So again, out of the box, there's this special system prompt, I think you can think of it as, which gives explanation on how can I then go from the PRD into a set of tasks, very granular tasks that the AI can then just pick up and do pretty much autonomously. So I do want to. Does anyone have any questions on that first step yet, or we can save them to the end if there's yeah. Overdo it. Yeah. It's a good question. So the gentleman there, he asked, how do you know when how do you get the balance right of not putting in too much context and also not putting in too little? I think my general rule of thumb is, and I guess you said you've experienced where you put too much stuff in, is anytime that there's new documentation, anytime you're using some new SDK, which probably hasn't really, that not much of that has been seen by the AI, definitely get that in. Definitely get something which has been released last year or 6 months ago. That has to go in, because otherwise it's just going to hallucinate. It also really depends on the model which you're using. I mean, I find, again, when you're using models like O3, you can sort of afford to put a bit more in because it's got such a big context window. I would generally say it's safer to go a bit further more, but for stuff which is very, very, I mean, it's been around for 5 years, you can probably afford to miss it out. And also what I'm going to highlight here is actually you want to sort of consistently give it that context as well, as we'll show when we go into the actual building phase. But thanks, that was a really great question. And just, I think for the sake of time, got 11 minutes left, so yeah, we'll save questions to the end. Now, as you can see, it created the PRD. It's giving me a bit of a blurb about it. We can then go on to the next step, which is creating tasks. So again, using that PRD, create tasks with this system prompt. The system prompt sort of gives a bit of an explanation. First thing that you need to do is generate the parent tasks, gives explanation as to that. Phase 2, generate the subtasks. So it's sort of chunking it into 2 steps. First thing it's going to do is it's going to create these high level tasks, which we as a user, as a senior engineer, or as an architect can look at and go, okay, yeah, that's good. That's not so good. Here, for example, I had already installed the dependency. So actually, as sort of before it then goes on to going into the subtasks, I could delete this line, or I could challenge it and go, actually, let's forget about testing, which yeah, I probably would do as well. But sort of you can. This is a good point in which you go, right, take a look at what it's probably going to do, and then proactively adjust it, remove something, say that, oh, you've missed something out, before then going on to the next step, which is saying, yeah, create the subtasks, and voila, it sort of does that same thing. Again, really important that you check this, because this is going to save you time in the long run. If you're just going totally YOLO mode, you will make the mistake, which I've done countless times, where you realize, oh, hang on, task 3.3, I didn't actually want that. And sort of, again, if you spend a bit more time taking in what the AI, what you're collaboratively working on, and you then iterate at this earlier stage, it will make it much better when it goes down the line, when you've got into this total mess of unmaintainable code. So doing it, again, proactively is very important. I would recommend thoroughly looking through this. It takes 5 minutes. It will save you potentially 30 minutes, 1 hour, depending on how bad some of the mistakes could be. Now, I had a look at this beforehand. I mean, I think in general it makes sense. I did notice, again, I was using Claude 4 Sonnet here. Usually I use O3 for the planning phase, and then I use Claude 4 Sonnet for the implementation phase, because it's a bit cheaper, it's a bit quicker, and it's like doesn't need to have so much, I guess, intelligence. Whereas for the architecture, for the creation, I think you need to be a bit more considerate. But what I did notice is actually that when O3 does these sorts of tasks, it's much more concise, much more concise. Just an observation which I saw. So I guess what we can do now, we can sort of take this step by step. Let's see what time we've got. 8 minutes. 8 minutes should definitely be enough to actually then execute these particular tasks. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do it task 2 and then task 3. I removed task 1 as I mentioned earlier, because I'd already installed the dependencies. But we can go into this sort of setting up the actual architecture, setting up the actual files. So I'll do this in a new window just to sort of keep it fresh. And I'll say, yeah, start with task 2, using, and then again, you want to just sort of tag using process task list. So this sort of just gives it that system prompt, so you don't need to be really descriptive on how to actually process these subtasks over here. So we can see it thinking, and I think first thing it's doing, yeah, it's just sort of understanding the repository, probably then go on to actually creating the files as well. Here we go. And I mean, often what I find is like something which I quite like to do when it's vibing, is looking at the next problem. So it might be, okay, well, while it's doing this, we can now do a PRD for the next feature that we want. And then you can sort of run that parallelism where, rather than just sort of sitting, I'm going to say yes, proceed with all of task 2 without asking. But you can sort of start parallelizing your workflow while AI is doing this big chunk of work. You can then go, okay, what could I be doing in the meantime? Maybe it's going to be thinking about, maybe it's going to be replying some emails. Maybe it's going to be, thinking about the next feature that I want to add, scoping that out, getting all of the information gathered, so you can then start running these things like super efficiently. What I will say, I've heard a lot of good things actually about the CLI programming tools, and I've not tried this particular flow with CLI tools like Claude Code, or I think Gemini just released a new CLI tool. So I've heard very positive things about those, and that would be something which I'd be interested in exploring. But I've been pretty happy just with my $20 a month Cursor subscription, because it gives pretty good bandwidth. So it's going through all of these tasks. This is relatively simple stuff. I think the bulk of it will be in this sort of third task. And to the point earlier about sort of adding context, I mean, especially if we're going to be doing this in a new context window for this third task, definitely going to need to think about, okay, what extra information do I need to add to ensure that these tasks are done without and reduce that risk of hallucination. And immediately, like, it sounds like, yes, it gives the instructions, but we're definitely going to need to pull in those docs again just by tagging it. Definitely going to need to pull in those docs to give it sort of that reminder. By the way, this is the API. This is actually the example script. This is how you should do it. So that will be something that I will be doing. It looks like it's done all of task 2. 5 minutes to do the final one, and we should be able to get some testing in as well. So let's accept all. Let's just stop it from there, and then we'll go, okay, continue with task 3. Do all of them without asking me for confirmation and refer to these docs. So I'm just going to pass in again this create token docs just to make sure that well, because this is a brand new chat. This is a brand new chat, so it doesn't actually have any of that referencing before. It's not really described it in here. It's given good instructions, but it's not given the documentation. So just adding it there. This could equally be done in a new chat window as well. But I think on the other side of things, because it's very tightly coupled to the previous step, I would personally keep it in the same chat window. But often, yeah, if you're doing something which is slightly different, maybe you're doing another microservice, or you're doing sort of another something in a totally different directory, that might be where you go, actually, okay, yeah, I'm going to do this in a new chat window, keep it so that that context is highly personalized to the particular task at hand. But again, in this instance, it's pretty similar. So yeah, wouldn't necessarily need to sort of do it in a new one. So okay, we'll run that. Cool. I have sometimes there's a bug on cursor, which is a well-known bug. It doesn't continue after you execute a command. I think it's something to do with the terminal that it's using. But as you can see, it's going sort of step by step. Next thing it will do is it'll be creating the tool. So it'll be creating the tool, which is, again, maybe here. Do you know what I'm going to do? Just again, I'm going to jump in here and go refer to, I'm going to show it the reference tool, just to make sure it doesn't slip up. Refer to Hedera. Well, for now, hopefully there's actually much more doing the following steps. And this is something which is very worth doing. It's like, yeah, keep a track on what it's doing, and then you can sort of stop, and then you can jump back in. And when you stop, it still remembers everything before. It's not like it sort of wipes away. When you stop, it's still going to see this previously. It's still going to have this inside of its context window. But yeah, again, in this context window, it hadn't seen the plugin, so bring it back in and make sure that everything is crystal clear to it. Running low on time here. I'm hoping we can test it. Maybe could have used, I think 4.1 is maybe even quicker than Claude 4 Sonnet, so maybe we could have used that, but we'll be tight against the clock. Okay, cool. So it's done the tool. Then it will create the plugin. The plugin is sort of a collection of similar tools within this Hedera Agent Kit architecture that you then sort of, you pass into, which you then pass into that Hedera agent. You sort of list all of the plugins that you want. So these are combinations of AI tools. They're LangChain tools, actually, so you can even use it with other LangGraph agents. Okay, what's it done here? We've got 1 minute. We're going to have to go quick. Come on, baby. You got this. You got this. You got this. Okay. So it's figuring out how to get the private keys. I don't think we're going to get this done in time, unfortunately. But I guess just as a recap, yeah, definitely check out. You can see the repo over here. I highly recommend it. I mean, if has anyone used this particular repo before? It's become quite popular. Has anyone used this approach by any chance? Yeah. Do you like good? Yeah. Yeah. So I think just again, just to recap, step one, create that PRD and work with it collaboratively with AI. Don't do it all yourself. Get AI to sort of prompt you. Next step, generate those tasks. Constantly check in, make sure that the AI is not going off course, hold it accountable. And once you're happy with those tasks, once you're happy with those subtasks, just let it fly. And again, still check it. Don't let it fly too much. But giving it that grounding really does help. So unfortunately, that's everything done here. It did seem to keep it going in the background. Maybe we can, if you want to come afterwards, I'll keep it running and we can see if it works out after this. But yeah, really appreciate everyone for joining, and I'll just stay until they kick me out.